Good afternoon and welcome to LSR7's Speaker Series webinar. My name is Katie Bergen and I'm the Executive Director of Public Relations. We have a really exciting webinar for you this afternoon featuring our Parents as Teachers program. So we're going to spend the next 25 minutes or so talking about Parents as Teachers, PAT 101. I have a great panel for you that I'm going to introduce to you in just a few seconds. But first, I just want to make sure that our audience at home knows about the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. This is how, after we have a little bit of a discussion, you're going to ask our panelists a question. So for some of you, that Q&A button may be right at the bottom of your screen next to the participants or the stop video button. Others might need to click the more, those three dots, and click more to find it. But this is where you're going to pose questions for our panel as we have a really exciting discussion about the PAT program today. First, I want to start off our conversation by introducing our panelists. So Tracy Robinson, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love the most about the Parents as Teachers program?
Sure, thanks, Katie. My name is Tracy Robinson, and I am a lead parent educator here at Lee Summit R7. I have been with the district now for 15 years, actually, and my favorite part about our program is empowering the parents.
Excellent. Dina Weber.
Hi, I'm Dina Weber. I'm one of the parent educators here. I have been with the program for 25 years. My favorite part of the program was working with all my families.
And finally, Jessie Walker.
Hi, I'm Jessie Walker. This is my 10th year with the Lee Summit School District, and I'm an early Head Start home visitor. My favorite part of the program is just the connections that I've built with the families and children that I get to work with.
Excellent. And we're going to learn all about the program today. So Tracy, I have a tough question for you. Just kick us off. What is Parents as Teachers? If someone is not familiar with PAT or has never heard of the Parents as Teachers program, how would you describe it to them?
Sure. Okay. So actually, the state of Missouri and the Department of Education actually requires that each district in the state offers some type of home visiting program. And for Lee Summit R7, that's the Parents as Teachers program. It's an evidence-based program, and we offer it to all families in our district as long as they reside within the boundaries. You don't have to qualify. It's absolutely free and voluntary. And we've actually, Parents as Teachers here in Lee Summit, we've been serving families since 1985. And we offer things like personal visits, developmental screenings for children, group connections, and then we also help pave the way for resources in the community and help families find those. It's also important to note too that we collaborate with Department of Education on a monthly basis to make sure that we're adhering to their guidelines and that we're current on children's milestones as well as parenting strategies.
And so, Dina, I know that Parents as Teachers has this mission of empowering parents with knowledge about early childhood development, but that means you serve a very specific age demographic. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, our program, we serve families from prenatal all the way up to pre-kindergarten in our district. We promote early learning and the knowledge and understanding of child development. We also spend a lot of time fostering partnerships with our community resources to connect our families too.
Excellent. And Jessie, what benefits can a family expect from participating in PAT?
Yeah, so with Parents as Teachers, we believe that parents are their child's first teacher. And so when they participate in our program, they get a better understanding of child development, improve parenting practices, and boost family well-being. We also help families look for developmental delays and health issues early so that they can get connected to the resources they need to best serve their child. Parents as Teachers has been shown to improve school success and school readiness. And as Dina mentioned, we work to provide families with connections to lots of different resources in our community. We work out of the Great Beginnings Early Childhood Center, And with that, we get to collaborate with a lot of different staff here, including teachers, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists. And so families that we work with have that benefit too of us being able to connect with those additional staff members as well.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Tracy, I know that when I was learning about PAT, I would hear about the home visits aspect, and I had a really hard time imagining what that looked like. So, could you paint a picture for us? When you look at parents as teacher home visits, what does that entail? What does it look like? Tell us a little bit more about the home visits aspect.
Sure, that's the favorite part of our job. So as far as the home visits, it can actually take place in the home, or we can meet at a community site. We could meet at like a library here at the office, but I would say the majority of our visits take place in the home. And I tell parents all the time, I just need a little bitty space on the floor or a little bitty space at the table to work with your kiddo. The home visits usually last about an hour. And then we decide with the parents when we meet the family for the first time, how often are we going to come? Some families we go see once a month, some families more often than that, and some families maybe a few times a year, just depending on their schedules and what's going on. When we sit down to do the home visit, we're going to bring an age-appropriate activity for the children in the home. And I'll talk more about this in a second, but it really is a family visit. We want to make sure that we bring an activity that everybody can participate in, or bring facets of activities so that we can include everyone. We're also going to talk about developmental milestones. And this would encompass speech and language, not only verbally what a kiddo says and how they babble or how they talk, but what they understand as well. We talk about cognitive ability, fine and gross motor, as well as social and emotional development. From there, we will talk about developmental topics. And we always have a topic that we plan to discuss with a family. It could be something in terms of attachment with your child, maybe their sleep schedule, or if they're sleeping through the night, discipline, nutrition, how well they're eating and what meal times look like, or transitions and routines. And we always come in with a topic ready to talk about, but ultimately we want to tailor that to what that family needs right now. And then the last piece that we usually try to touch on in the visit is the family well-being. Again, we're focusing on the entire family, the kiddos that are prenatal to age 5 that we service, but really everybody in that household. We want to make sure that we touch on mental health. Are their basic needs being met? We can talk about recreation and enrichment opportunities and what they're looking for their children, relationships with their families and their friends, and just overall education. And, again, the part of the program that I like the most, both as a parent and as a parent educator, is that we're tailoring to what that family needs in that moment of time.
Excellent. Thank you. Dina, Tracy mentioned developmental milestones. What tools does parent educators, what do they bring that help parents monitor those milestones or understand those milestones?
Sure. We do a big part of one of our components of our program is the screening that we offer to families that help us monitor those developmental milestones. It looks a little different depending on the age of the child. So for children who fall in the age range of 3 months to 3 years, we do what's called an ASQ developmental screening and an ASQ social emotional developmental screening. Those are both screenings that allow us to target the strengths of kiddos and maybe some areas that they need to work on for some improvements. Both of these screenings are questionnaires that we complete with the families when we're setting in their home during our home visit portion. So some of it is things we ask their child to do, some of it is parent report, and honestly, a lot of it is just observations either the mom or daddy have made, or grandparents, or us as the parent educator. Depending on the outcome of those screenings, we may refer a family on to one of the early intervention services that we might have here in the state of Missouri. First Steps is a real common one that we use to help those families to provide some additional support. If the child is 3 years old, then it kind of gets a little bit more involved and it's more focused on the child. We do the dial developmental screening at that point. And then we also do a social emotional screening with those kiddos too. Both of these tools are screenings that allow us to track their milestones and to identify any little young kiddos that might need some further testing or who might need some assistance with some of those kindergarten readiness skills. Both of those screenings can be done either in the home or up at the Great Beginnings Early Education Center. It just kind of depends on the needs of the families. Our screenings, all both for the younger kiddos and the older ones, all include a vision screening and a hearing screening. If you come to the office, we have a little bit more involved of a hearing screening that our speech and language pathologist does for us. Also, if a family attends a screening up at Great Beginnings, then the articulation portion of our screening, which is how the child pronounces their sounds, which is a big concern for a lot of people, that is done specifically by our speech and language pathologist. We're very fortunate here in Lee Summit. A lot of parents as teachers programs do not have access to a speech and language pathologist, but we do, and it's a wonderful service that we offer to our families. So our families can sign up for those older kiddos, even if they're not assigned to a parent educator and they're just interested in learning about where their child is developmentally. They can go to our website and sign up for that dial developmental screening at any time, as long as they live in the Lee Summit School District.
Excellent. Thank you. Jesse, can you tell me a little bit more about who conducts the home visits and who conducts the screenings?
Yeah, so there are currently 25 home visitors who are working with the school district. And every parent educator has to go through Parents as Teachers curriculum training before they can start doing home visits. We're also trained on how to give the ASQ and the dial screening as well. So those parent educators who come into the home are also the same ladies who are going to be doing that dial screening when your child comes up to the office. All of our parent educators have a 4-year degree, and we all do continued education every school year to stay up to date on, child development and parenting practices. So we're current with the information that we're sharing with our families. And then we all have a variety of backgrounds as educators. And many of our parent educators have also participated in the program themselves with their own children. So we believe in it both as a professional and as a parent. So.
Excellent. And Tracy, I've heard a lot about group connections associated with the PAT program. Can you tell me a little bit more about group connections?
Yes, I can. The goal of our group connections is to increase parents' knowledge and confidence in supporting their children's development. Some of our group connections are going to facilitate social interactions, and those will usually be family events where the parent or guardian can attend with their child or children. But then some of them we're sharing information on developmental topics or parenting strategies, and in those cases, those invitations might be just for the parents and guardians without the children. Some examples of group connections that we've done in the past is Meet Me at the Playground, whether it be the playground here at Great Beginnings or one of the local Lee Summit playgrounds. We do a STEAM and Messy play night, and that's a family night, and kids love it. We build with blocks. We play with water. We get big boxes, and they can make all kinds of things. I mean, it is just a child's heaven. They love it. We do an infant massage class, which is one of my personal favorites. Then from a parenting perspective, we offer conscious discipline for parents, which is some discipline strategies and calming strategies for parents to use with their kiddos. And we also offer a kindergarten readiness night to help parents, especially with those first-time kids entering kindergarten, so they know what to expect as they enroll their child. And our group connections, they just really provide a unique opportunity to learn and practice parenting skills in a group setting, but it also allows families to connect not only with their own child, but with other children and families in the community.
Excellent. Jesse, I'm going to ask you in a minute about the scope of the PAT program, but I just want to take one moment to remind folks, especially if you're just jumping in, that if you have a question for our panelists as we move along, we'll be doing questions at the end of our discussion. You'll want to find that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. It's either right at the bottom of your screen. You may have to click the More button, but that's where you can direct a question for our panelists to address at the end of our conversation. So Jesse, could you tell us a little bit about the size of the PAT program? How many families is Parents as Teachers serving in Lee Summit?
Yeah, so we again can serve any family who resides in the Lee Summit School District boundaries. And last year we had more than 1,200 families enrolled in our program. So we were able to serve 1,700 children, which equals over 6,000 home visits that our educators did last school year, and 1,600 screenings that were conducted on children. So we were serving a lot of kids in our community, and we're hoping today that we can reach even more families and get them, signed up and participating in our program.
I'd love to talk about research. So, Dina, is there research either at the state level or the district level that illustrates the impact of parents as teachers?
Yes, there are several studies that have been done over the years that families have been involved in parents as teachers. One of my favorite ones to talk about is that it shows that children at age 3 are significantly more advanced in language, social development, and problem solving over those kiddos that have not had the opportunity to participate in parents as teachers. Children involved in parents as teachers also have higher kindergarten readiness test scores, and they're much less likely to be retained in kindergarten and first grade. So that's a big one for families also. Parents as teachers kind of long-term, a little bit down the road, shows that children that have participated in parents as teachers statistically have higher rates of proficiency in 3rd grade in the areas of language arts and math on their math assessments. And then for parents, we show that parents that have been involved in parents as teachers are more likely to be involved in their children's schooling. They read more to their children, and they are just more confident in their parenting role. Reading to kiddos is a really big one. It was just on the news this morning. I don't know if anybody watched it, but they were talking about on the news that children that have been read to at least one book a day, 7 days, what a boost it does to their language development and scores. So that was kind of a good plug for parents as teachers.
Absolutely. Okay, most important question I probably could ask. Tracy, how does a family sign up for parents as teachers if they're interested in learning more about the program or signing up for the program?
Super easy. We do it all online now. So the website that Katie dropped in the chat, the lsr7.org/PAT. If you go to that website, it'll have an enrollment button right there. You click it, just takes a couple minutes. We gather some information about the family, about the child, and usually we have somebody get in contact with the family within a week to 10 days to let them know when they can expect to hear from a parent educator.
Awesome. Okay, we're almost at the end of our conversation. So again, folks at home, if this would be the time to ask a question, you have a question for our panel. However, I'm just going to turn it back to you guys. Is there anything I should have asked you about PAT that I didn't ask you, or anything that you'd like to add to our conversation before we end for the afternoon?
I think one thing that I would add is, and I know Jesse touched on this a little bit, but not only have I been a parent educator for 15 years, but I have 5 kids that all participated. And so I was a parent in the program as well. And I mean, just the confidence that it gave me as a parent, but I also, my parent educator helped me identify a speech delay in one of my kids that, again, you would listen to your kids talk every day and you understand them. But I was like, oh, wow, she should be making those sounds and we're not making them. My son had a gross motor delay and we were able to get resources for that. And it was just such a great program for me as a parent. Again, just boosting that confidence, having somebody to kind of troubleshoot with when I was struggling as a parent or struggling with some milestones, and just can't encourage families enough to enroll.
Thank you. Jesse, Dina, did I miss anything? Anything else that we need to cover?
No, that's all sounds good. I totally agree with Tracy on that. I second what she just said. So
I agree too. I know. I'll think of it just as soon as we disconnect. I'll be like, oh, I should have said this, but right now I can't think of anything.
Well, if anyone at home, I'm not seeing any questions in our Q&A box, but if anyone at home has a similar experience and they think to themselves later this afternoon or later this evening, oh, I should have asked this question, please make sure you go to the PAT website. We've put a link for you in our chat today. Dina, Jesse, Tracy, I just want to thank you for giving your time and helping to educate us about the PAT program. If we don't have any other questions, I'm going to end for the day. We appreciate your time to folks. Oh, I think we might have one coming through. Okay, I'm gonna read it out loud, and you guys let me know who the best person to answer this is. So the question is, if my child is in first steps, will it transition over to you as he turns 3?
I can answer that one.
Perfect.
So even if the family has a child that is involved in first steps, they're still able to participate in the parents as teachers home visiting portion of our program from the minute they're born, or prenatal all the way through. So we do, sometimes that's a little confusing because first steps is in the home, but we also still continue to go in the home also. That question also might kind of be twofold. They might be curious if a child that's in first steps, which ends at age 3, when they say transitions to us, if they mean transitions to our school age program. And the answer to that is there is a process with that. Their first steps coordinator reaches out to the school district, and they all meet and have a meeting together with the family and discuss if there's a transition process at that time. So yes, they do communicate, but you can do both programs at the same time.
Excellent. Thanks, Dana. I'm gonna hold the line for 10 or so seconds to make sure there aren't any unanswered questions out there. Looks like that might be it for the afternoon. Again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone at home who's tuning in and for having interest in the PAT program. Again, our website is linked in the chat, and we'll see you next time here on the, oh, okay, here we go. What does a home visit look like for a 6-month-old?
I can take that one. Jesse, you can chime in if you want to. For a 6-month-old, again, for the activity, I would probably come in with, we talk a lot about object permanence with a 6-month-old, which is that they don't necessarily understand that when something goes away, that it's going to come back. So we'll do things like puppets and peekaboo and those kinds of things to work on that object permanence. I also, for a 6-month-old, will bring an activity of like a rolling toy or something that when they push it, they start figuring out, wow, when I push this, it moves, and that cause and effect, but also getting them to maybe stretch a little and roll a little and figure out how to get to that toy that just rolled away. So activity wise, that I always bring a book on every single visit. So I'll read a book with a 6-month-old, and that's just so important for them to hear that language. When we would move into kind of like some of the topics to discuss, sleep is usually a really big one at 6 months old, that they're falling into a sleep routine, maybe starting to sleep through the night and how we can get them there. That's a big topic that I talk a lot about. And then in terms of family well-being, just making sure that mom and dad are taking care of themselves now that they've got this parenting thing down in 6 months. How are you feeling about it mentally? Are you doing recreational things for yourself, getting out? And that would be kind of, those would be the highlights of a 6-month-old visit for me. Jesse, can you add anything to that?
No, I totally agree. I'm like, it all kind of just depends on what that family's going through. At 6 months, you're kind of seeing like, what are the hiccups? As maybe the baby's a great sleeper, or maybe they're, trying to transition over to formula, or, it just kind of depends what's happening with that family. And we have, our curriculum has activities for every age group. And so we have 15 to 20 activities we can pick from for every single age group of birth to 3-year-olds. And so there's lots of different fun things we can do with, even when they're itty bitty. We can bring a couple activities maybe instead of just one, because they do go quicker with a 6-month-old. But we have lots of fun things we can still do and introduce the family to.
Excellent. I have another one for you. The question is symbols versus sounds. What is the most effective way to teach reading pre-kindergarten? And how does your program or your parent educators address reading?
I would say a lot of our parent educators focus on just like letter recognitions and sound recognitions, and kind of just starting to teach families about, those kind of language and cognitive skills. I know in my 10 years, like I have not personally focused on reading a lot with our pre-kindergartners. It's more of the, name recognition, letter recognition, letter sound recognition. I don't know about you ladies.
I was going to say, I agree with you, Jesse, on everything you said. Those pre-reading skills are really what we focus on through parents as teachers. So that emerging literacy, like when you're out in the community and all of a sudden your kiddo recognizes like the Hy-Vee that you shop at, pointing out that, oh yeah, that says Hy-Vee. We can figure that out using our clues in our environment. We talk a lot about rhyming, that's a pre-reading skill. We do lots with the sounds of letters and experimenting with that. I can't think, Jesse or Tracy, can you think of any other things that you do also?
Rhyming was a big one for that pre-reading. And I would say too, two pieces that I talk to parents a lot about is that just the appreciation for reading, even if you're reading to them, that they see the value in sitting down and making time to read those books and really listen. I also point out to parents too, kind of what Jesse and Dina both said, but with like that letter recognition, when you're reading a book to a kid, ask them, do you see the letter A on this page? What about the letter B that's in your name? So you can kind of incorporate that into the reading. So again, they understand why all those letters are on the page. But as in terms of actual reading, we just focus more on the readiness.
Excellent. Great question. Waiting to see if any more come through. I have a question for you, Tracy. I've talked to you a little bit about this. I want to know a little bit more about the infant massage classes that you're involved in. I see a lot about that. I'd love to know specifically a little bit more about the benefits and how you embrace parents who are interested in learning a little bit more about that.
Sure. The infant massage class, like I said, it's one of my favorites. Just the value of touch and connecting with your infant. There's a lot of research that shows first of all, I should say the infant massage class is basically for the newborn up through before they're really mobile. So I've got like the littles in there. And there's a lot of research that shows it's hard to connect with your kiddo those first few months. Those first few months, they're not giving you a whole lot. They're just kind of eating all the time, sleeping all the time, crying all the time, and parents just don't feel connected. And touch is their first communication. That's a baby's first communication. So using that touch to communicate with your child, to bond with your child. When you're touching and massaging your baby, you're releasing endorphins that are calming to them and that start forming memories. So we talk a lot about that and how to proceed with massage and, what's the best time of day. We go through the strokes and making sure that we're reading the baby's cues. Like, do they look relaxed when they're doing it? Are they squirmy? Maybe they don't like that one. And probably my favorite part of the infant massage too is I try to incorporate what Conscious Discipline calls I love you rituals. So singing some songs so that we use song and touch to calm our baby's bodies and making them just more aware of their bodies. You think about it, we have to teach a baby everything. They don't necessarily know they've got fingers at the end of their arms and they don't know about their toes yet. But when we're doing that massage, we're making them more aware of their body and their spatial awareness. And it's just so fun to see the babies relax and seeing the parents like loving that, that connection and that they can help their babies calm down and be relaxed.
Excellent. All right. I think that's all the questions that we have. I don't want to speak too soon, so I'm going to keep an eye on it for a couple more seconds. Again, thank you, ladies, for your time today. Thanks to the audience at home for being interested in PAT. We have our website there in the chat, and I hope everyone has a great day. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.